You know that feeling when you're lying in bed at 2 a.m. and your brain won't stop running through every possible thing that could go wrong tomorrow. Your car makes a weird noise. Your boss seemed annoyed at you today. Your phone bill is due, and you're not entirely sure you have enough to cover it. That's not just stress. That's what life feels like when your bank account has nothing left to protect you. But here's something that's going to sound almost insultingly simple. There's a specific dollar amount that can make most of that anxiety disappear almost overnight. And it's not $10,000. It's not six figures. It's not even close to what most financial gurus tell you to save. It's $1,000. My name is Ryan, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, psychology, and why some people seem completely unbothered by financial stress while others are consumed by it. If you want to understand the real mechanics behind financial peace of mind, not just the theory, but what actually changes in your brain and your daily life, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up helping you. Now, before we get into why $1,000 is such a game changer, let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt genuinely relaxed about money? Not rich, not set for life, just relaxed. Like you weren't one unexpected expense away from a really bad week. For most people, that feeling is rare. And the reason isn't that they don't earn enough. The reason is something much more specific. When your bank account is sitting at zero, or worse, negative, your brain enters a mode that psychologists call scarcity mindset. And scarcity mindset is brutal. It doesn't just make you stressed about money. It literally reduces your cognitive capacity. Researchers at Princeton found that financial stress consumes so much mental bandwidth that it's equivalent to losing 13 IQ points. Think about that. You're not just stressed. You're actually less capable of making good decisions, solving problems, and planning for the future. Exactly when you need those skills the most. This is why people who are broke often make decisions that seem irrational from the outside. They're not bad with money. They're operating with a brain that's been partially hijacked by financial fear. So, what breaks the cycle? Here's where it gets interesting, because the answer isn't what you'd expect. Most financial advice tells you to build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, and that's great advice, eventually. But for someone who's living paycheck to paycheck, save 6 months of expenses sounds about as achievable as buy a yacht. It's so far away that most people give up before they even start. But $1,000, that's different. $1,000 is the first real threshold, the point where something shifts, not just mathematically, but psychologically. Here's why. The vast majority of financial emergencies that derail people's lives cost less than $1,000. Car repairs, medical copays, a broken phone, an unexpected utility bill. These are the things that send people spiraling into credit card debt, payday loans, and months of financial recovery. When you have $1,000 sitting in your account, none of those emergencies are emergencies anymore. They're just annoying, expensive, sure, but not catastrophic, not life-altering. And that distinction between catastrophe and inconvenience changes everything about how you move through the world. Let me paint you a picture of what $1,000 actually does to your daily life. Monday morning, you're driving to work and your check engine light comes on. Version 1. You have nothing saved. Your heart drops. You start calculating whether you can put it on your credit card. You're distracted all day at work. You snap at a coworker. You go home stressed. You don't sleep well. The repair ends up costing $600, and you spend the next 3 months paying it off with interest. Version 2. You have $1,000 saved. You see the check engine light. You think that's annoying. You call a mechanic at lunch. You pay for the repair. You move on with your life. Same car, same repair. Completely different experience. And here's what most people miss about this. The benefit isn't just emotional. When you're not consumed by financial panic, you make better decisions. You negotiate better at work because you're not desperate. You take better care of your health because you're not constantly stressed. You're more present in your relationships because you're not mentally calculating your bank balance every 5 minutes. Neuroscientists have found that financial security, even modest financial security, measurably reduces cortisol levels. That's your body's primary stress hormone. Lowering cortisol improves sleep, immune function, decision-making, and even cardiovascular health. $1,000 isn't just money. It's better sleep, clearer thinking, and a version of yourself that can actually function at full capacity. Now, let's talk about what $1,000 looks like in practical terms, because I want you to see how achievable this actually is. If you save $84 per month, you'll hit $1,000 in 1 year. That's less than $3 a day, less than a coffee. If you save $200 per month, which is aggressive but doable for most people who are intentional about it, you're there in 5 months. And here's the thing about that first $1,000. It's the hardest one you'll ever save. Because you're not just saving money. You're rewiring your habits, your identity, and your relationship with money from the ground up. Every dollar after that gets easier. Not because you suddenly make more money, but because you've already proven to yourself that you're capable of doing it. The second $1,000 takes less willpower than the first. The third even less. By the time you're working toward $10,000, saving has stopped feeling like a sacrifice and started feeling like just what you do. But here's the part that most financial videos completely skip over. And I'd argue it's the most important part. When you save your first $1,000, you don't just have more money. You become a different person. You become someone who has savings. Someone who can handle emergencies. Someone who doesn't panic when life gets unpredictable. That identity shift sounds subtle, but it's massive. Because your financial behavior flows from who you believe you are. When you see yourself as someone who saves money, you start making thousands of tiny decisions differently. You notice the subscriptions you forgot about. You pack lunch instead of grabbing takeout without even thinking about it. You start looking at your expenses the way a CEO looks at a budget, strategically, not reactively. And here's the beautiful irony. The discipline it takes to save that first $1,000 is exactly the same discipline you'll use to save $10,000 and eventually $100,000. You're not just building a bank balance. You're building the most valuable financial skill you'll ever have. There's one more thing that happens when you cross the $1,000 threshold that nobody talks about. You stop seeing the world through the lens of threats and start seeing it through the lens of opportunities. When you're broke, every unexpected event is a potential disaster. When you have a buffer, those same events become decisions. Do I want to spend this money on that? Or do I want to keep building? That shift from reactive to proactive is what separates people who stay stuck from people who build real wealth over time. $1,000 won't make you rich, but it will give you something more valuable than money. It will give you options. And options are what wealth is actually made of. So, here's my challenge to you. Not to save $1 million, not to max out your retirement account, just one thing: get to $1,000. Open a separate savings account today. Name it Freedom Fund or Emergency Buffer or whatever makes it feel real to you. Set up an automatic transfer, even if it's just $25 a week, and don't touch it. Because the version of you that has $1,000 saved thinks differently, sleeps better, and makes better decisions than the version of you that's running on empty. And that version of you? That's just the beginning. If this video helped you see money differently, hit that like button and subscribe, because we post new videos every week on the psychology of money and how to actually build wealth, not just dream about it.